see. All right. I think I may have fixed it. Can you hear me now? Huh. Still can't hear me. All right. You hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you.
Ah, okay. All right. So we'll start it off properly. First off, I hope the audience appreciates and realizes that this is my first time trying to operate the system. It's not very complicated, but I couldn't figure out why we couldn't get the tech right. But now we are operating and we're going. So, as always, this is the PanAfricana Show. I am one of the co-hosts, Jesse McCoy, and I have my wonderful co-host Nkechi here with me. Fred is in our absence today, but we are still here to bring you a good show and good content. So today, I want to talk about one of the topics that we've been throwing back and forth over the course of the week, and that has to do with ABC's new show, The Wonder Years, which those of you who used to watch the old show, you know, it's not new. It's just really a black version or a black perspective, a spin on the old Wonder Years classic. So before we start, I want to find out from you, Ketchy, how do you feel so far about the Wonder Years show? And do you feel like it's an accurate portrayal? Do you feel like there's anything that needs to be fixed on it? How's it going?
So, I think it was a couple of days ago. I sat down and I binged watched the Wonder Years.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm so rude. I didn't even do an intro. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the Pan Africa Show. I'm a co-guest with Jesse and Nkechi, and yeah, let's jump right in. Um, so a couple of days ago, I actually binged watched the show. I used to watch the old show, but here's the kicker in German. This was years ago when we were in Budapest. So I when I was watching it, I wasn't watching it to compare and contrast. I
Okay.
was watching it trying to understand what would be the premise of the black version.
Mm.
Yeah. What would be the premise of the black version? Was it going to be more comical than deal with real life situations? Or was it going to be um, a complete replica of the original? And my takeaway was one, I like that it focused on real life things that a lot of African Americans were dealing with in the 60s. And two, it wasn't so heavy that you can't follow along. Because the first episode where they found out that MLK had been assassinated, it was heavy, but then it was from the mindset of a prepubescent adult adolescent, so it wasn't too heavy, so
Right.
that's what I liked about it. And of course, they have the you know racist jokes that white people tell here and there without back then. Of course, if you have to think about it, I guess to them they were not being racist, they were just stating facts. So yeah, that was my takeaway. I really liked the show. It was funny. It was really funny.
Absolutely. Well, so we've got Stephanie on. Shout out to you, Stephanie. She says she loves that show. And then we've got Nadine, who's giving us the hugs. I'm assuming that means she loves the show too. But hello to both of you all. Um,
Good morning,
so
ladies. Well, good afternoon, ladies. Why do I keep?
yes,
Oh, because
depending on where we are,
yeah.
right? So I'll give my focus on the show, right? So it's a very interesting show in the fact that they decided to place the characters in late 1960s Alabama, right? So for those of you all who may have never been to the United States or who may have never been to specifically the deep south of the United States, that is an interesting selection in the 1960s for a lot of reasons. One, because we're dealing with kind of the aftermath of the civil rights movement. So these are the early days where kids are just starting to be integrated into school,
Mhm.
and when people are just starting to bring these two cultures in America, black culture and white culture, together. And there's a lot of tension, right? And that tension is spread all throughout. On top of that, people are still on the heels of, things like lynchings and Emmett Till and all those other things. And what we have, at least in that first episode, is this display of unity that, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was fighting for, right? So he's fighting for equality. He's fighting for everybody to be able to attend the same schools, have the same opportunities, all that stuff. And at the beginning of episode 1, it seems like that's the direction that we're going to be able to do it, with the adults who know how things used to be being a little more apprehensive than the kids are, because the kids are just friends with other kids, right? And even the concept of having this baseball game from two different sides of the town, these two teams coming together, for the parents was a little bit hard to swallow, right? For the kids, it's just a baseball game.
Yeah.
But what we also see, and what I think the show ultimately has gone into and will continue to go into, are a lot of problems that affected the larger nation, but specifically what that looked like from a Black perspective. So we know there's an older brother. He is yet to be on the show because he is fighting in Vietnam, right? That's going to be a big show whenever that comes up. We know that the sister is an adolescent. The sister is a teenager. So she's dating boys and she's getting caught up in the movement. And she's, now growingly disgruntled by some of the things that have happened on a larger scale. And that's going to have a great kind of spinoff in and of itself. But our main character is Dean. Dean is prepubescent. He is right now infatuated with girls, one in particular. He is an interesting mix in that he's not the oldest. He's not old enough to really be respected, quote unquote, in the household yet. But he's trying to find his way with his friends and with his family. So he's finding himself, which is a great character to have in a Wonder Years type scenario. And with that is this new understanding of kind of rediscovering who his parents are, right? Yes. So this understanding of, his dad, who's a university professor and a jazz musician, and his mom, who, at least in that show, at that point, we didn't really know what she did. We just knew.
Honestly, I think the first 2 episodes, I assumed that the mother was a homemaker. Just because she was always there preparing the meals, doing laundry. But then I think the day where they were supposed to go for follow your parent to school, I realized that she works.
Absolutely.
She works. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so Stephanie says, what I appreciate about the show is how they got details correct. I felt like I was in the neighborhood I grew up in. I also like how it makes you think. My favorite line so far is, "Mom, what makes cupcakes taste so down home?" Mom replies, "Slavery." Yes, that was a great episode. So I want to get back into that because you brought up a great point. They went out of their way to not show the mom going to work initially.
Yes.
Which gave that impression that she's a homemaker. Everybody assumed.
Yeah.
But then when we finally get to the episode about her job, we see that not only is she working at a job, but she is undervalued at her work. She runs that place.
Yes.
And nobody wants to give her credit. Sadly, even the Black coach, the friend of the family who works with her, who she was helping out, even he at the end of it didn't give her the proper credit that she deserved for helping him out, and had her eating in the kitchen with her son while everybody else is going out celebrating new accounts and stuff. So I think it's very important because I think it's telling a little bit more. I think that was one of the episodes that gives you a little bit more insight into mom. But then they also had the episode about prophylactics, right? Like the episode of, we're expanding into Dean's growing understanding of sexuality. And you would think this is where dad's going to jump in. Dad's going to be like, look, this is how it works. Birds, bees, boom, 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 boom. And we're running. But that's not what happened. It's like, that's not at all.
No, it's not. It's not what happened at all.
Absolutely. So you start seeing the power of somebody who essentially is a queen and running the office with people who don't know what they're doing, running a household, right? Raising kids, and being the person to be able to confide in and teach you about the things that you need to know to be a successful adult. We've got one more person here, So I told you, he said, Dean is a snitch. Oh man, I mean, so I'll say, what was he supposed to be like 11 in this show?
I think 11. I think 11.
Yeah. So who at 11 isn't a snitch, right? Like, you
Oh,
don't
no
really.
comment. Because I was not a snitch.
Oh, you wasn't a snitch at 11?
Absolutely not. No. If I snitched, I got in trouble. So who am I snitching on? If I snitch on
Oh
my
my
sisters, I
goodness.
got in trouble.
See, I'm thinking about it like this. Usually, in most families that I've seen, the baby is the snitch because the baby is the one who won't have consequences. Like the older
Exactly.
kids got consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's get into it. So, at the end of the first episode, as Ketchy alluded to, we have the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And for those of you who may not be familiar, in 1968, when this happened in Black America, particularly in the larger cities in Black America, this was like, that was it. Like this whole experiment of integration and all that, it fell apart. So people started rioting in the street, burning everything down, fighting the police, the whole nine, because if you get this person who's a champion of nonviolence, but you eliminate him violently, then that's the ultimate slap in the face, right? But we don't necessarily see that in this piece. And I think, one, because it's ABC and they're not going to let you see certain stuff. that's just how American corporate television works. But the other side of this is largely in a lot of the southern states, you didn't have that same kind of reaction. And what we see is usually we can focus on how this affects adults, like what this does to adults. But nobody before has ever looked at what did this do to the children that were watching,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or the teenagers. So I think about like my mom was 18 when Martin Luther King was assassinated, right? What does that mean to an 18-year-old? What does that mean to an 11-year-old? And what you see is everybody in that first episode is looking for some degree of comfort, like somebody to be comfortable with in a period of uncertainty. But here is where I had the issue because I was pissed with his best friend for making out with the girl. You know good and well that Dean likes that girl. And you gonna sit here and make out, and they supposed to be friends after that. That's unacceptable. I cannot.
But they're like 10, they're 10, 11. 10, 11.
Unacceptable. Like he was just on the bus with you talking about, oh, she's great. You can see the daffodils and sunflowers going around his head every time you would look at her. That's your man. It's like you can't say, oh well, I'm gonna go kiss her too. No. Then on top of that, it wasn't like they invited him collectively somewhere. The two of them went off, and Dean just so happened to ride his bike up to the school where they used to hang out at. That sounds shady to me.
Oh Lord. I mean, I guess we can agree to disagree. To me, I still, maybe because I don't want to say maybe because I'm a woman, but like they're still kids. So
Okay.
they're not supposed to be engaging in such adult activity. It's like, okay, you like her, so what? You're allowed to have crushes. It's like you can crush and go to school, like see your crush in school and then come home and do your homework. I honestly didn't, it's true. I honestly didn't read much into it because I'm like, okay, he kissed her. First of all, he's not even supposed to be kissing. So why did he kiss her? Why is he kissing? Why is he talking about making out? Why is he kissing girls in school? I don't know, but he's doing that. So yeah, I mean, I did not like the fact that he saw that but didn't talk to his friend about it. So instead, he just let it boil over, and it's like, okay, you're mad at her, but if you're supposed to really be upset, you're supposed to be upset at your friend and talk to him. That's why I said they're children. Children don't understand the concept. Well, okay, because that's a oversimplification of children. Sometimes they don't understand the concept of if something doesn't make you feel good, you can be vocal about it. I guess it's because of culture and the way society allows kids to express themselves, or it's more like, well, depending on the culture. Remember, these are young Black kids. They're not young white kids. were not as expressive as young white kids are. So he was just holding it in his heart. It was bubbling over to his schoolwork. And it's like, if it really hurt you that much, you should have told your friend as soon as you saw it. Sorry, me, my petty ass. As soon as I wouldn't even have watched it. As soon as I see everybody leaning in, I'll come with my bicycle. What are you guys doing?
I mean, but what would the explanation be? Even if you rolled up and you were like, y'all got explaining to do. Like, what's the explanation gonna be? See, I guess from my perspective as a man, like once you're caught in that situation, particularly if like this has ruined your friendship or at least caused some detriment, there's an added like gene in the back of your head that's like, but I got one up on you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, what happened? Your girl can send me. That's what happened.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know this.
Because you already, I mean, you in it now. Like when they caught you red-handed, you in it. What you gonna say? Oh, I slipped, I fell, and I ended up at the school. Nah, you in it now. It's like, hey man, you know the rules of the game, right? He hit him with the goldie bag. You know the rules of the game, right? I mean, your girl just chose me.
But then at the end, Kisa didn't like any of them.
That's true.
Well, it's building up to something else. So she probably might have a crush on him back as well.
Yes. And we're gonna get to that. Let me go through a couple of these comments here. So we've got Stephanie saying, yeah, we all got beat. I guess she's talking about back when we were talking about kids when got beat. Yeah, we got beat. Let's see. It also highlights the inequity mom faced at work and how hard she worked at home. Absolutely.
Yes. I think in that episode, my favorite part was when Dean came home with her and said, can she breathe?
Absolutely.
But so to me, the underlying theme with that particular episode was women do a lot at work.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come home, they have to switch roles and continue doing a lot at home. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how people always assume that we do less work at work, and then when we come home, we're just chilling. When in reality, you're dealing with a lot, being undervalued, being micromanaged, being spoken down to, sometimes even sexist comments being made, sexual harassment. But you deal with all of that within the hours that you work. Then you come home, and then you still have to. There's no time for you to be yourself. You then come home, and now you're mom.
Absolutely. And all that stuff that you talked about was happening times a million.
Yes,
back then.
Yes,
but ABC don't want to show all of that. They don't want to show people grabbing on women and all that stuff at work. They don't want to show that. But yeah, so all of the things that you talked about, absolutely. Let's see, Stephanie says the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which is a great museum, by the way, has newsreels I had never seen about the assassination of Dr. King.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they've got everything. If you haven't been to that National Museum of African American History and Culture, definitely do it. It's a full day trip.
I tried. So the thing is, they released back then. This was 2019 when I was trying to go. They released free tickets. Within 1 minute, it's all sold out.
See, we'll talk after the show. Okay. You gotta have people. You know what I'm saying? It's ways to get around it. So yeah, we'll talk. Let's see. Told you, he says those kids took advantage of the whole situation. Yeah, he talking about them kissing at the school. I'm with you. They took advantage. And it had to be some degree of coordination to that. Because why did they both know to be at the old school nobody's at the same time and not invite Dean? There's some coordination going on, but that's neither here nor there. Steph says shady, he broke the code. Exactly. You can't break code. Like, I know it sounds bad, but once my friend says, oh, this girl, she's hot, I like her, blah, 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 blah. Like, in my mind, at that point, I don't see her no more. I'm Stevie Wonder. I don't see her no more, because even if she like me and I like her, he already, told me his opinion, and I don't want to feel like I'm doing it. Now, granted, as you get older and you become an adult, sometimes they can get real gray, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
See, Dean was fed up with his family on his mom's behalf. Yep, that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. Absolutely. And I like that it wasn't the sister, it was the youngest son.
Mm-hmm.
because it shows that even before he got into, I mean, he went to work with her, he had a very vague idea of what she does. And the lens he was looking at her through was through mom that
Yep.
keeps the home. And he even made a comment. He could tell from mom's sweater that she had a boring job. But
Mm-hmm.
then when he followed her for the day and saw all the things that she does, and she literally has nobody, when he came home, I like the fact that he expressed it. Can we rest?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I think it's a valuable life lesson that I hope everybody takes away from this. Like you're supposed to have some kind of sanctuary at your home.
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
the fact that people are so easy to thrust more responsibilities on, particularly, I'm gonna say black women. Like I don't know what happens in white households, so I can't really talk on that. I mean, they got trust funds and stuff, I'm sure. So I don't know how it works there. But I will say, you know, like for so long in American culture, there was an attempt economically to strip and divest black men of those opportunities anyway.
Yes.
So if you couldn't get the job, but she got 3 jobs, right? And then
Yeah,
she
yeah,
works,
yeah.
she's got to put up with the crap at work, right? She's got to deal with all that. And then on top of that, if you're intelligent on all of that, you're the person who's holding it together. The white accountant that messed up, right? And he knew he would get in trouble if they found out. The black dude was trying to get the promotion, right? She
Yes,
up here trying
yes,
to help
yes.
everything and make
Yeah, yeah,
cookies,
yeah.
right? That the down home flavor of cookies because they just want a black woman making it. Now, granted, we do a good job with our seasonings. You know, we do a really good job. I give it that. But anybody else should have been stepping up to the plate and doing it. And on top of that, she should have got more look because remember, they're accountants, but they're not treating her as an accountant. She is the receptionist, right?
Yes, yes.
So it's crazy that she has to deal with all that and then come home and deal with people who don't understand what she did all day. And of course, Dean was like, "No, y'all gonna learn today. Y'all gonna learn today." Uh,
He put his
seven,
foot down.
we still don't get paid the same. African American women still don't get paid. That's why I was glad when Shonda Rhimes blazed out. Well, first off, Shonda Rhimes is my hero. You know, first and foremost, because anybody who could walk away from that ABC money, it's like, I'm good. Y'all don't want to respect me. I'm done. Um, that's big. And she
So
did
hold
put,
on, Jesse.
yeah.
What's the story behind Shonda Rhimes?
Oh,
I
oh,
know
oh.
she left ABC, but I wasn't sure.
So Shonda Rhimes initially, and just so the audience, I don't know how much people know about it, but initially she had pitched her show ideas to a couple different networks. They wouldn't pick her up. One finally stuck. It was Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy got picked up. America loved it. They couldn't get enough of it, right? While she was doing Grey's Anatomy, she put out another show that became Scandal, and America loved it, and they couldn't get enough of it. But in every one of her shows, she works in like powerful black women into the show and puts them in a light that historically has been reserved for whiteness, right?
Mm-hmm,
So you got
mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Pope, I'm sorry, Olivia Pope, who is like basically the right hand of the president,
Yes.
right? And you know, black people don't get those jobs. Like that's not it doesn't usually work that way, but she did it. Well, what happens is Shonda wanted to expand. So she's doing stuff, and Netflix is like, look, we got billions of dollars over here, do some stuff for us. So they do stuff for like, I think it was Bridgerton and all
Yes,
this
yes,
other
yes,
stuff.
yes.
And so she came back to ABC and was like, well, I find it funny that you all are trying to give me all these restrictions and trying to limit how much I can get paid. But Netflix is over here showing me a lot of action, showing me a lot of
Yeah.
love. I've got a relationship with y'all, so I'd rather work with y'all and try to make it right as opposed to dip out. But ABC was basically on some, you know, corporate white man stuff. Take it or leave it. So she was like, peace.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, I ain't mad at her because Netflix, if you are listening, Nkechi and I are available. Make the checks payable to us. We are available. I'm sure Fred would agree with that as well. Let's see. We got Stephanie said, I got you, girl. And she was extra petty in how she left. I think they were still talking about the dean situation when he saw them kissing at the school. Let's see. Shonda walked away from ABC money to get Netflix money. Yep. Great decision. It's like walking away from the US dollar to get Bitcoin. And her book of the year, her book, Year of Yes, got me through my midlife crisis. Now, I haven't read Year of Yes. I don't know what that's about, Steph. So, and so you say he's also available. They can just cut group checks, you know what I'm saying? Netflix, holla at us. But yes, so let me shift your attention now to the episode with the daughter, right? So Dean's older sister, and I apologize, y'all, I haven't committed the names to memory yet. I just know Dean. But Dean's older sister, of course, we see her in the first episode. She's making out with her boyfriend in the car. Then we finally see her and the boyfriend, and they are in an installation for Black Panther Party. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff about the Black Panther Party that is very admirable. And there's a lot of stuff about the Black Panther Party that is not so great, right? Yeah. And I think it's a conversation that in America, oftentimes, we don't get to discuss that nuance because we oftentimes either hear the white, version of the story where like Black Panthers are just evil people and they're trying to destroy America.
Honestly, if you are foreign, that is the narrative of the Black Panther.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Unless you actually take time and do research and realize that they were fighting for, Black equality, a lot of times we just hear them as they were disrupting American government because that's the narrative that we are told.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, so I think the good thing about the Black Panther Party, if anything, is it's a group of people who decided they're going to change their community. They got tired of police brutality. They got tired of not having access to medical resources. They got tired of inadequate education, improper nutrition, basically all the things that are still happening in Black America. They just got tired of it, and they decided we're going to do something about it. And part of doing something about it was, one, organizing at the grassroots level. But the other part of it was demonstrating that they were going to be a party built on self-defense. What that meant is when police officers used to go and beat up Black dudes aside the head because they could get away with it, Black Panther Party had people on call who were going to roll up with guns just as big as the police and have something to say about the police officers. And police didn't like that because one thing we know, police don't do accountability. Right?
Straight facts.
Yes. So they ended up doing this, and they ended up, causing what they call sensationalism, where they march on the Alameda County Courthouse with shotguns at a time where, it was legal to carry guns. It wasn't a big deal until that, because Governor Reagan was like, absolutely not at the time. And Governor Reagan went and instituted what we now know as gun laws, right? To prevent people's access and ability to have. But one of the things that is a not so great piece of the Black Panther Party was that a lot of the work that they had done in the community was done by women who were not valued as equal, right? Oh. And so the problem is there was a lot of sexism in the movement because it was a very macho, masculine, manly movement, despite the fact that you got people like Elaine Brown. You got people like Sister Cleaver, like folks who are out front, Angela Davis, like folks who are out front, folks who are like putting this issue in the forefront. Yet when they go back, they don't necessarily have status and position in the party. Oh, and this is something that eventually causes people to leave and defect from the party, right? On top of that, J. Edgar Hoover and COINTELPRO and all the stuff like installing people to disrupt the movement anyway and killing off. But, that's neither here nor there. But it's important for people to grasp that. And so what's interesting to me in the Wonder Years is they give that to you. Like firsthand, when she goes in to see her boyfriend, she brings Dean, right? You get that feel of the hyper masculine atmosphere
yes.
in the Black Panther Party and his continued devaluation of her and the things that she cares about, i.e. her brother Dean, right?
Yeah.
And even like I think he was calling Dean out his name, like
yes,
he's a child.
I told you. He said something about I told you not to bring this soft something jive or whatever.
Yeah. And I think it was a critical point because at that point she had to make a decision as to what does she value? Does she value her family and her relationship with her
Mm-hmm.
brother who gets on her nerves? Or does she value relationship and popularity and all that stuff? And she was looking for her outlet from the assassination of Martin Luther King as well.
Yes.
So this was an outlet for her. She was like, no. And that was a very real outlet for a lot of black people who said, you know what, if y'all go kill us, we got something for you, right? We've been stacking up stuff too, and we ready to go out here and let's just fight it out and see what happens, right? Like the worst that can happen is what y'all trying to do to us anyway. So
Right.
let's just go see what happens. And so I say all of that to say that showing this, particularly through the eyes of children in Alabama, which isn't really known as a big hub of Black Panther Party, it's more so, Oakland, Chicago, New York, like big northeastern and western cities. Um, I mean, to show that was very powerful. Now, granted, it's ABC, so they put the sauce on, but it's like, I ain't gonna knock them. Something is better than nothing. I'm curious though, since you say that that's the introduction that you are given to who the Black Panther Party is. Like what were you told? Like what do you know about it?
Well, I mean, I know more than the average person, but I'm just saying, like, if you don't live, the thing is, when if you don't live in America, there's a lot of narrative that you receive, which is usually from the majority white people. So a
Mm,
lot of the things that you would hear is not, it's not good stuff. It's like, oh, they're going around disrupting the government and their terrorist group and stuff
mm,
like that. You have to be in the country to fully understand the scope and what it is that we're fighting for. Yeah, you hear that they were fighting for their rights, but then, the movies that Hollywood has been able to make about Black Panther, it's never really good. They
mm,
always overshadow the good of what they were trying to do for the community and focus on how the CIA was trying to plant people to disrupt them, how they were doing this. It's usually always negative. So it's like,
mm,
okay, if Black people created this to get some sort of autonomy, why do all the movies focus solely on quote unquote the negative?
mm.
So a lot of people, they don't fully understand what it is that the Black Panther was created to do. So
Absolutely.
that's but that's sad though. That's very, very sad. It's like when you hear about how they say that they're still looking for Sata Shakur and all these
Right.
people. It's like, okay, wait, but what did they really do? The way that the Black Panther has been highlighted, it's like they were just a group of disgruntled Black people who decided that they were going to take the government down.
Mm. Which and that like is mind blowing to me because they weren't even trying to be involved with government. Like the thing, they just didn't want government like disrupting people, the Black community's ability to live and take care of themselves.
Yeah,
And this is the other thing. I just think the one thing I will say. I try to say good things about America. It gets increasingly hard every day. The one thing I'll say about America is they got a great advertising system and great
absolutely,
branding.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
so
No, it's
they,
true.
yeah,
If you don't live here, the and it makes sense because sometimes when I watch certain movies or I watch certain documentaries where a lot of non-Americans make comments like, "Oh, um, they assume that all Black people are involved in gangs, they take drugs and stuff like that." Where are they getting this information from?
mhm,
It's the movies, it's the news, it's the stuff that we see on TV because we don't live here. So, what is the parallel that we're going to draw and say, ha ha ha, that's actually a lie? We don't
mhm,
have that. Well, I remember growing up living in Nigeria for like 2, 3 years. All the movies that we were watching were high school movies, all white high school movies,
mm,
like Bring It On and all of that, all white high school movies where you're looking at America and thinking, oh, everybody is middle class, they have big homes, they go to nice high schools. And, when you get to America, you'll be able to live that type of life. And then when you see the Black people in the movies, they either have barely any speaking roles or they come from um, poor neighborhoods and, their parents are not together. Like all these images, whether you want to believe it or not, they stick. So when you
mm.
come here and you drive past a not so good neighborhood, predominantly filled with African Americans, you're going to go back to what you saw before you came and say, well, yeah, this is what we're seeing on
Mm.
TV.
Yeah, I can't even get started on Hollywood because Hollywood been racist from jump,
Yeah,
in doing that. But I always think about it like this: it's always interesting to me to hear your perspective and then to see our perspective because it seems like there's a weaponized way of using media to divide black people internationally,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Because if you go in the hood and you talk to black people here about what's going on in the continent of Africa, then the images that some people have conjured up in their mind are based on what they've seen
Yeah, feed the
on
children one
TV.
dollar a day, living in
Exactly.
huts, living in trees, and it's like I can't remember the last time an ancestor lived in a tree. So
Right.
I don't know where this narrative is, but again, it's from when you stay up at night or when you're watching TV, there's a commercial. Or with $1
Absolutely.
a day you can feed, and it's like, okay, technically with $1 you can't really feed somebody that much,
Mhm.
but yeah, I guess it makes sense for you to say that. Because even when we lived in Jamaica, we got asked the same question. Do you guys live in trees? Do you guys swing from trees? How do you get to school? Um, excuse me, can you talk to animals? It's like, why would we? Like, I'm confused. Where are these questions coming from? Television.
It's yeah, I just feel like it's weaponized divisiveness that is created and manufactured for the purpose of keeping things like this show,
Yeah,
for keeping this, separate. Because if you look, like I look at achievements, not just now, but like historically, achievements from the continent as well as achievements from the United States for Black people. And you just don't see in those in books a lot of accolade thrown on those achievements. What you see is, oh yeah, this was an anomaly, right? like
no, it's
Tulsa,
true.
it's an anomaly, right?
Yeah,
Mali is an anomaly, right? And that's not. I mean, I don't feel like that is an accurate depiction at all of who people are. But I also realize we don't control the
the
apparatus that
narrative.
designs
That
these
is true.
images.
That is true.
So, even, I had a podcast that was doing international numbers for a while, and I would get messages from people in Australia and in China, and they would say the only time that they had ever heard anything from a Black American, it was either music, like rap,
Yeah, or
um,
basketball.
or a basketball game.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And I was like, wow, that's the image that's going around. Or crime, of course.
Of
We
course,
always
definitely. No,
getting
crime is
arrested,
number one.
right?
Crime is
Yes.
number one. Yeah.
Yes. But what's funny is even the arrest, and I'll get back to like Black Panther Party in general, because most of them ended up either dead or arrested.
Or in jail. Yeah.
Yeah. Even those arrests oftentimes were fabricated based on information that wasn't true.
Yes.
So the government would come in and be able to plant whatever they wanted to plant to take people down and destabilize the movement. But for some reason, that media narrative is what survives because it programs other Americans to think that's what they were doing, right? And when you try to say something against it to say, no, that's not what we were doing, then they send people to come find you. And that's when you get the Asada Shakurs and Eldridge Cleavers and stuff that have to flee the country and go to another place. And then they'll be
Mm-hmm.
on, some list
Yeah.
forever of being banned from being here
Some
because they're
for
messing up
exactly.
the image.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting stuff. But let's see. Stephanie says, this is when we were talking about guns. She said, click clack is open carry in Texas. Stephanie, that's both good and bad, right?
Right. Right. I was going to say it's good and bad.
Let's see. They help formulate the plans. I got to do a better job of staying on top of this because I don't remember what that was related to. I think she was talking about Black women in the Black Panther Party movement. Yes, they help formulate the plans. Black folks in the South resisted everywhere. We had a group in San Antonio. I grew up around them and became a lifelong community organizer and advocate. Yeah, I think the difference, in my opinion, down south has usually been we go to the church to make our like strategic plan of what we
Mm,
want to do. People, our brothers and sisters in New York, you know what I'm saying? Like, church is the last place we go on. We got guns today, right? we go out today. And it's just, it's different. I don't think one way is necessarily better than the other. It's just different. Toju says there is power in stories. There's even more power in being the storyteller. Oh, that is
I definitely, what
snaps.
oh my goodness, I definitely agree. I was waiting for you to finish so I could say that my qualm with everything is when we have opportunity to tell our stories,
Mm-hmm.
instead of us to tell stories of Black people who have made strides, we have no problem retelling the same stories over and over.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a plethora of Black people who have accomplished so much in this country, everybody has no problem telling Harriet Tubman's story over. Harriet Tubman again, and it's like, okay, but she might have been the first who set that path, but there's so many other people that you can
Absolutely.
tell their story. Or if we have the platform, we want to tell stories about, not to say that we can't, because I understand why some storytellers want to tell stories of how basically we're just like white people and we live everyday lives. Yes, you can tell that story. But remember, Hollywood has had almost 200 and something years to tell their story.
Yep.
So at where they are right now, even if they decide to tell a story about a cardboard paper, they can do that. We have to try and get 250 years or whatever how many years it is in 2021. So if you're given a platform to tell a story, I feel as if it's very important for you to tell a story that makes sense, that also educates. I'm a fan of Spike Lee, but I feel as if sometimes I wish he would tell, besides Malcolm X's movie, I wish he would tell more stories about less known Black people who make strides. I know he's not
Mm-hmm.
the only one. I just use him because he's very well known.
All right.
Because to me, that would go a long way. Because not only are you educating non-Black people, you're also educating Africans. You're also educating Asians. You're educating people who don't live here, so that they're now more aware that, oh wait, they'll start questioning stuff like, oh, maybe all Black people aren't just committing crimes. Maybe all Black women aren't just prostitutes. Like stuff like that will make them start thinking. But if we keep on regurgitating the same thing, and within the storyline there's a deeper meaning only means something to somebody who is aware that there's a deeper meaning.
Absolutely.
If an African was to watch, an African living on the continent of Africa who is not aware, if they were to watch, um, Spike Lee made a movie about Black frats.
Oh, oh,
Is it Higher Learning?
School Days.
School Days. If they were to watch a movie like that, they probably would not understand the underlying theme.
Mm-hmm.
I watched School Days, I think 2 or 3 times. The first time I just watched it like, oh, this is what Black people are doing in America. The second time, which was either this year or last year, when I watched it, I was dissecting the movie. I was pausing and replaying. I
Right.
was like, oh, I see what he's doing here. But I had to be here. I had to take time to learn, to do research, to be able to understand it. So
Absolutely.
you have to also take into consideration that it's not just for Black people in America. You're also educating people who don't live here. So when you're making movies, I feel as if as a storyteller, you have to be more cognizant of telling our stories. We can't wait. Like, what would be the incentive for white people to make a story about us? Why?
Mm. Mm. That's a
Think
good
about
point.
it. It's Jesse, think about it. What would be the incentive for you to make a movie about white people?
Oh, I'm just getting money if I'm making a movie about white people.
But but the thing is, why would you want to, like, besides making money,
yeah, it's
if you're
nothing
sitting
new.
down, and it's nothing new, right? How many times are you going to tell the stories about Queen Elizabeth the First or Henry the Eighth? How many times? How many times do you want to hear those stories?
Yeah, I don't want to. I didn't want to hear him the first time. So
That's all we learned in history. I went to a British school, so we learned about Henry the Eighth so many
oh
times. It
my
became like
gosh.
it. That's a story for another day. But yeah, I wish we would take more time to tell stories like Scandal. A lot of Black people didn't like that show.
Hmm.
I loved it. I loved it because to me, it's like at the end of the day, between Olivia and her dad, I don't know who was running the country.
Yes, good. I like that point. Well, I think this. So the other thing, when it comes to scandal specifically, we also have this media trope of black women who only feel validated when there's a white love interest, and I think that's what people were upset about. They're like,
But that's what they
"Oh,
were. That's the thing. That's what they were focusing on.
mhm,
I
that's
watched
true."
Scandal and I binge watched Scandal, and then I started becoming a regular that followed it every week. That's not what I took away from Scandal. That's the thing.
Mhm.
and I'm a Black woman. That's why I said if you're not aware of what's going on, you easily get sidetracked with what is right in front of you when there's more behind the scenes. I took away that, oh wow, Olivia and her dad were running the country. They were basically going back and forth. Who had more control? Olivia wanted to do it the right way. Her father was like, I don't give a rat's ass. This is how we control the country, and this is how it's going to be.
Right.
And then at the end of Scandal, what happened? She became just like her dad.
Oh,
Two
I
Black
haven't
people.
seen it. You just
Oh,
spoiled
snap.
it.
My bad.
I haven't seen it. I probably wouldn't see it. I missed out when she met her mom, who was the quote unquote terrorist. And then I knew, like, I always loved her dad. Her dad was awesome, but he was just super militaristic. And, you know, I know those people exist. Those, like, I call them the Dick Cheney types that shoot their friends in hunting trips accidentally.
Yes, yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, I think for Scandal, I think the novelty of it initially, of somebody who is Black and a woman, and, you know, being high power in a city like Washington, D.C., where, like, you control not just really America, but like American institutions around the world. Yeah. I think that was, you know, revolutionary. Mm-hmm. I also think when you're dealing with money, and this goes to your point about why we don't have a lot of stories about other people, those movies got to get financed, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you're dealing with ABC, or when you're dealing with whoever is going to be your financial backer, there are certain things that they're going to impose on you to not show, right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
So even the Olivia, I keep calling her Elizabeth today, the Olivia Pope issue with her and the president, right? Even with her having a relationship with the president or with Jake or whoever, even that, I feel like, is the carrot that Shonda Rhimes gives to the white establishment, so she can tell what her real story is.
Okay, to pacify. Okay, got you.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what
exactly.
you're saying.
So I think, you know, if, first off, I know for a fact that if white America really, really knew what Black people were thinking, right? And what Black history has proven to us, and what Black people were thinking, if white America really knew, like, things would be haywire. I was shocked that there was a presidential acknowledgement of the Tulsa race riot, because we knew about Tulsa forever, but America, white America, is just learning about Tulsa. And they're like, my God, that's so sad. The government turned on its own people and blah, blah, blah. We're like, oh, this is probably a bad time to tell you Tulsa's only one story.
What exactly? Tulsa may or may not even be the beginning, but yeah, it's something that happens often, actually.
Absolutely. And I think about that when I think about the big time people in America who don't get movies, right? So, like, Marcus Garvey, ain't no Marcus Garvey movie. You know what I'm saying? That's not a movie, right? Because white people are like, we don't want Black people getting the notion that you can get your own boats and go back and resettle and go to another country and you know, have a great time without us. We need you dependent on being a consumer.
It's true. It sounds funny, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they don't want to see that. And then, you know, all of the, like, every February I do a list of Black history posts on Facebook that has grown in popularity. But even those posts often comes from the research that I do on the individual person or institution that we set up. And what I try to do is I write it from the perspective of, like, the person as a human, not the person as the figure that we know them to be, right? Okay. So even like there's this doctor, Daniel Hale Williams, who's the first doctor, not first Black doctor, first doctor to perform open heart surgery on anybody, right? And you rarely hear about him. Nobody really talks about him. There's no movie for him, right? But the concept of Daniel Hale Williams was that he was a doctor in a time where Black people in America went to the barbershop for medical treatment because we didn't have hospitals that would serve us, right? So you could get a lineup and, you know, basically your stitches all in the same place at the same time. And what happened was there was a white guy who ended up getting a fight at some club in the white side of town. He got stabbed in the heart, right? The doctors were like, well, sucks for you. That sucks for you. That's it, because open heart surgery hasn't been invented yet. So it sucks for you. And he heard the story of this black doctor in a barber shop who knew how to do it. And he was like, I'm dying. So they took him over to the black doctor the same night. The black doctor does it, fixes him, everything's great. And the guy goes back, and now this white guy who's been saved by a black man goes out and sings the praises of Daniel Hale Williams. And it was able to put Daniel Hale Williams in a position where he could do, setting up his own like medical program to train other people behind him and all of this stuff. But you just don't hear about those stories, right?
No, at all.
So I think that white people know that these stories exist, and I think they probably get pitched these stories, but when it comes to funding it, they're not necessarily apt to do that, and they don't feel like profit is always a big motive too. So they feel like, okay, well, are white people going to go out to see?
Right? Are they going to spend their hard-earned cash to watch?
Right. And that's what Black Panther, not the movement, but the actual movie with T'Challa, that's what that changed, because they didn't want to bet on Black Panther because they were like, oh, who cares about black superheroes? Not realizing black superheroes is what we all had been waiting for.
Right. Right.
So we made that movie get billions of dollars, and it was a black director who's really good and has a host of other great movies that he's directed. And now expectations go up, right? I think it also did at least a little bit to change what people's mindset was here about what it means to be African, right?
Absolutely.
The pride that you can have in being African, and at least doing research to expand your horizons and understand what's going on. Told you says, I hope we can skip the Ben Carson. The Ben Carson, too late. He got gifted hands, man. I don't know.
I was going to say, I might not like his politics, but he's good at what he does. I'll never discredit somebody's accomplishment based on their politics. You can keep your politics, but for the fact that he has done a lot as a black doctor, I'll never take that from him.
Yeah, and politics is, I'm just telling y'all, because I unfortunately work with politicians, it makes strange bedfellows anyway. So there are people who we think are, champions for the cause, but when they get in the other side of the room, let me tell you,
behind closed doors,
it's not the same.
It's like my mom is always saying, she she worked for the Nigerian government for almost 30 years. 30 years, actually. She always says Republicans, Democrats, they're the exact same thing. The only difference is, to her anyways, she says that maybe Democrats care a little bit more about the people. Meanwhile, Republicans care about their politics more than they care about themselves. So to me, they're all the same. I'll be honest. It's like the political parties that we have in Nigeria. They're usually an offshoot of one political party. So it's like they keep on, when you're playing musical chairs,
right?
Just going from one party to, it's the same. You just create another political party just so you can run, but your agenda is still the same. Your platform is still the same if you have a platform. So yeah, that's my only issue with him, his politics. He can kick rocks with that, but he has good accomplishments. And I don't like the fact that his accomplishments, because of his politics, his accomplishments will never be as noteworthy because he decided to align with a goofball. Excuse me.
No, that's being nice. I'll just say, the interesting thing about Ben Carson also is he was offered the opportunity to be the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. He turned that down to say that he wasn't experienced enough to do that, yet became the Secretary of the Department of Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have any experience in housing and urban development. I would have respected you being Department of Health and Human Services, like, oh, you're a doctor. But he was like, well, I lived in the projects. Like, okay, bro, that doesn't.
Okay, bro, that does not. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that with his full chest. I mean, okay.
Yeah. So And Told you says he displayed a shocking lack of intelligence during the campaign process. So, all right, Told you I want to be honest about this part too. I'm trying not to get too far into it, but essentially, I agree with what Ketchy has said. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, and I think it's two sides of the same coin. What
Yes.
you realize from the Republican Party of today is that they are homogenous. As long as they have white people that support them, they're going to
Yes.
win, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
they're going to
Yep.
say things that are going to, in their mind, help the white majority in America. That means
Yes.
they can say racist stuff because we're not the ones voting for them, right?
Right. Right.
Now, if you want to win on a Republican ticket, guess what you're going to have to do? Dumb it down and, and say
No,
the
it's
things
true.
that's
No,
going to
no,
make
it's true.
white people.
It's very true.
That's the
You're
way
not
it is.
their demographics. It's not, besides, white women who will always vote for white people.
Mhm.
Their demographics aren't necessarily um liberal educated whites.
Mhm.
That's not what their demographic is. So they don't need to speak with intelligence. They just need to say um Mexicans bad,
Yep.
guns, black people killed this, blah blah,
Yep.
and then they'll run with it. That is it. Anything else, you're preaching to the choir, you're talking to air, thin air. So if you're doing more than that, they're going to look at you and say, "Are you sure you're not a white liberal?" So if you just keep it the way it is, which
Mhm.
is, even think about, and I don't like to go, even think about Trump's rallies,
Mhm.
how dumbed down they were.
Yep.
It wasn't anything you're sitting there thinking, wow, he just dropped something intelligent. I never knew. No, that's not what it was about. So
He let
with
the white man
Ben
be the white
Carson,
man.
exactly. I honestly think that Ben Carson just felt like, okay, this is the time for me to get in, and he
Mhm.
was going to get in however he got in. That's it.
Yep. Yep. And you just sell out. That's what you do. It's like
Yeah,
Diamond
and
Silk. You
there
just
are
sell
lots
out.
of people who sell out. It's the thing is, we always look at them and act as if they're a minority. No, there are lots of people who sell out.
Mhm.
A lot of them. They always justify with, oh, my family this, or I've never been here before, or who knows when next I'll be in this position to get this power. So you sell out.
Yeah.
So for me, Ben Carson, he has his accomplishments, and I appreciate his accomplishments. That's just it.
Yeah. Well, I look at it also, on the Democratic side, you have to remember that the people who run the Democratic Party are still white, right? So,
Literally.
so even if Republicans win, it's not like the people who run the Democratic Party are going to hurt. Like that
Yes. No,
helps them.
they're not. It's a system of
Mhm.
checks and balances. So it's like they're not going to make outlandish requests that will never get passed. They have to. That's why I always say they're the same
Right.
thing. They have to see eye to eye, and for the most part, when it comes to certain things, they definitely see eye to eye. That's just it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why you haven't gotten your reparations check yet. Because
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen.
and time is ticking.
They're not going for that.
Yeah, because it's
That-
not important
it's
on
not
both
important
sides.
to
It's
them.
not important.
Right. It's not important. That they also invest in many of the same corporations and banks
Yes.
that you care about. So that's why you haven't gotten your student loans.
Exactly. It doesn't. It's true. It doesn't matter who's in power. That will always be the last thing. Like as soon as it comes on somebody's table, it's like bah humbug. They'll just throw it out. They're not interested.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
not interested.
Yep. And then every time you think you have some traction or you think you saved somebody's political career and they're going to come back and help you, they don't.
Yeah, because the thing you can't. I don't want to say you can't do too much, but literally, it's like you cannot do too much before they start side eyeing you and start questioning your quote unquote loyalties.
Mhm.
So you can belong to this party, you can belong to that party, but they're still, each party is still going to check you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
We got two comments from Told You. He says, you see, like I think when we were talking about Ben Carson's decision as to what government position he wanted. And then he says, I get dumbing it down, but denying science as a reputable medical professional is both harmful and hurtful to everyone who saw him as a role model. So here's what I'll say to that. Ben Carson don't care about us, right?
exactly.
So he getting to the bag. He don't care
Right.
about us. So him denying science, if anything, gives the white man that he's trying to placate the ability to say, I knew I was brilliant, just as good as that black
It's
doctor.
true. Yeah.
Let's use nails instead of stitches. Let's do all the things that we want to do, and let's keep blue collar.
Nails.
Right? So yeah, I mean, and I'm not gonna deny it. Like it turns my stomach when I see a sellout, just because you know all the things that the ancestors have gone through, you know what your people are dealing with on a daily basis. But the problem is sellouts are here to stay. Like it's not like
Exactly,
we're gonna
because
purge them.
even back then, they had sellouts. Even
Yes,
during slavery, there were sellouts.
yes,
The onlooker who sold his village and said, "Oh, our village is this way," and then they gave them a red scarf, or they gave them
yep.
that was a sellout or a traitor.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not going away. And on top of that, I think in America, sellouts make a lot of money. Like Candace Owens ain't hurting for no meals, right?
Yeah,
So they make a lot of money. It's just the fact that they are prioritizing the denigration of their own people for a check.
for a check.
And
Yes,
if you know what it is, then their position is you can either get with the program and come join them, or you can not get with the program and keep fighting a perpetual fight for equality that is not going to exist because they're going to always slam the door when you do it.
yes, and
Um,
I think a lot of sellouts have, for them, they've, in their mind, they are at the stage where they feel as if nothing is really going to change. So why don't I cash out where I can and
mhm.
at least try and enjoy the rest of my life while I am still here? I
Yeah,
don't think anybody wakes up and decides, hey, guess what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a sellout today. No, it's a lot of things that has happened, things they've seen, things they've witnessed, and them coming to the self-realization for themselves that they feel things aren't going to change. And even those that fought for change, they're not here to see the little change that has occurred. So why should it be me?
yeah.
The
I
question
mean,
is, why should it is usually always, why should it be me?
yeah. That's the sad part. Like I don't know. It's hard for me because I know so many people who are raised to believe that the world kind of revolves around them and they need
Yeah.
to chase the bag. But that wasn't how I was raised. That's why it turns my stomach. Because like I'm raised as there's a collective, right?
Yes,
And I was
yes,
raised that the
absolutely.
collective is not even just here in the United States. Like the collective is international, whether we know it or not. We are all part of the collective, and what we are supposed to be doing is helping everybody dismantle white supremacy so that we can breathe, or the next generation can breathe a little bit easier. But it gets frustrating when you're dealing with, particularly like, with Candace Owens and folks like that. She's very educated. I know people don't necessarily want to credit her for that, but she's very educated. That's why it makes it even more detrimental because you know better. You know what I'm saying? That's like, but you just are going out of your way to not promote the collective. You're going out of your
Yeah,
way to
to
milk it for your opportunity.
exactly. You're trying to be the there, and you also, I think people also forget that the reality is, because of how colonization, the spreading of white supremacy is still very active. A lot of times, a lot of black. Let me calm down. A
No, go
lot.
for it. Go for it.
So a lot of the dirty work, white
Mm-hmm.
people don't need to do it anymore
Mm-hmm.
because of the after effects of colonization, white supremacy. They have black people like us doing the dirty work for them. They
Mm.
know within our collective there are a few people who still need the approval of their white masses. So without doing much or even saying anything, just like that, somebody can pick it up and decide, well, why am I doing this for this? Why am I doing that for that? When in reality, they haven't done anything for me.
Yep. Yep. You're not lying. And they all come out the woodwork because if y'all haven't been watching these, the Kyle Rittenhouse trial and the trials for the guys who killed Ahmaud Arbery, if you go to those trials and you watch it live stream and you read those comments, whoo,
Wow.
it's hard. It is hard to digest. There's a lot of racist people out there. And so, I think we have touched the surface, and I think we need to have a whole show like dedicated to
Yes.
breaking that
Yeah,
phenomenon
definitely.
down.
I'll be here
Um,
for that show.
yes, I'm gonna get through these comments. I know we are running out of time. Let's see. Stephanie says, "I'd love to do a Black Panther movie discussion." I watch that movie twice a week, every week.
Twice a
So,
week.
so whenever you're ready, we can do that. Let's see. Is it the same? It is the same colonizer tactic. Absolutely. She's giving us snaps for the conversation. So many people had no idea Texas was so late. Texas is a whole conversation. If you haven't watched The Harder They Fall on Netflix, please watch The Harder They Fall on Netflix. Each one of those characters is based on a real person, even though the storyline is not real. It's based on a real person. And a lot of people don't know that the Wild West was won by black people who were the cowboys and not the whatever the white people try to paint as their saviors, the Wyatt Earps and all them. I couldn't believe we got Juneteenth. We've been celebrating and taking the day off. Juneteenth to me was like red herring, man. Like Joe Biden could have done so much more for us than Juneteenth, but that's a whole
God
nother
bless
story.
you. God bless you for saying that. That's literally how I. No, it's true. That's how I feel. It's like I'm grateful that we get the holiday, but it's like, sir, I'm pretty sure that there are other stuff that we really need. Like, not
Way more,
want, we need.
way more, way more. Stephanie, but he does. Oh, just when she was talking about when you talk about Spike Lee, he does Do the Right Thing is a story that happens every day. Do the Right Thing is a great movie. I think what Ketchy was talking about though is we don't have a lot of stories or movies about other figures throughout Black history besides Malcolm X. Do the Right Thing was a real story about real people in an area of New York when he's dealing with like things like gentrification,
Mm-hmm.
um, cultures that are coming together that don't that sell to black people but don't necessarily like black people, like
Right.
the whole kind of thing. So yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. It's why critical race theory was a hot button topic. Yes, critical race theory. That's a show. I gotta write this stuff down because critical race theory is definitely a show. The trials are disgusting. Yes, the trials are disgusting. So I'm gonna try to do a better job this week of following along with those trials and trying to keep folks updated on what's going on. Just so y'all know, Kyle Rittenhouse, if you've been on social media, you probably have seen the memes of
Of him
Kyle
crying.
Rittenhouse crying and all that stuff, his fake tears. Um, so Kyle Rittenhouse is the guy, for those who don't know, who right after Jacob Blake was shot and paralyzed by police in Kenosha, Wisconsin, there was a Black Lives Matter rally to support Jacob Blake. Kyle Rittenhouse rode over from Illinois to Wisconsin with an AK-47 and decided he was going to be security for some car dealership that doesn't even know who he is. And and in that process ended up shooting, I think it was 6 people with his AK-47, and then walks by the police with his hands up and nobody arrests him and all that stuff. So he's on trial right now because all these different factors went into play to getting them to actually bring charges that they didn't want to bring. And now you see every day the judge who is presiding over that case is so pro Kyle Rittenhouse. It is
Yes,
disgusting.
it's not even funny. Yes, I was
It's
reading about
disgusting.
him shopping for cookies
Oh
on
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
yelling at the defense of Carl. It's like, what's going on? Did anybody try and see if he was actually competent enough to be a judge? That's the
No, I
real
mean,
question.
I don't know how some places they elect and some places they appoint. So I'm not sure what this judge was. But typically, in my opinion, judges have more relationship to the vote than anything else. So if he's a judge in that area, it's because the people in that area believe like he does. Like that's what they
Oh, I
voted
see.
for.
Okay, okay.
If he was appointed, then he believes in whatever the person who appointed him typically believes in.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And then Yo from us. So somehow we are communicating to ourselves. So I'm assuming that's Fred. What's going on, Fred? Hope everything's going well with you, bro.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
yes. And then Toju says his
yes.
mom drove him across state lines to go shoot protesters. Yes, she should be on trial too. She should be, but she's not because America. So,
Right.
so
Why? Because America. Yeah.
America. That's just it's a sad reality that I think, well, at least I hope people around the world are awakening to because of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all these things. But for us, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd is a Tuesday, right? Like,
Yes.
so it's
No, it's
like
true.
this,
It's true.
this is what happens. Fred just checking in. Well, we're glad to see you,
Hi,
man. We're
Fred.
getting ready to wrap up.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for checking in. Thanks to all of the people who've been commenting, listening. We just want to make sure we give you our information. So if you have not done so already, please follow us on Instagram at the PanAfricana Show. You can also follow us on Facebook. It's PanAfricana presented by Afterscope. I don't think we have anything else, but yeah, follow us on that. If you are interested in merchandise, we do have our
Merch.
Spreadshirt link up on the Facebook page. So check that out, and we'll do some more promoting that as well. Lastly, if you have a voice and are able to talk on a Saturday, we would love to hear from you, and we would love to have you on. Even if you're a sellout and you want to talk about your
Why
sellout,
you're a
like
sellout?
what your position is. You may not, you might get some icy reception, but we'll hear you. We'll hear you
Right.
out.
Very true. We still have to respect your opinion.
Yes, we'll hear you out. But we just want this to be a place where we can bridge the gap throughout the Black diaspora, so that Black people from anywhere, regardless of where you are, will have something to be proud of. We'll have a network of people that can be part of the family. And we want to hear from you because we need to know what's going on in your neck of the woods as well. So feel free, please reach out to us. Let us know. We don't bite. And we'd be more than happy to have you on. Lastly, please tell a friend about the show. We will have this posted up on YouTube as soon as I figure out from Freya how to do that. And then once we get it posted up, feel free to share and tell friends about the show so that we can continue to grow and continue to provide you all great content. So, Nkechi, do you want to give us? I'm going to let you do the final word for us today because I feel like this is a success. The fact that the computer did not freeze and we didn't go black. This is a success. We did well.
Thank you. I feel like we have a couple more messages.
Okay, let me see. Fred says, proud of y'all. Thank you. Thank you. You are not replaceable, sir. So call it all crabs in the
Bro, I told you he's on a roll today, huh?
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I might have to walk away from the screen a couple times, and take a deep breath, drink some water, and then come back and regroup. But I mean, it's important that we know that being black is not a monolith, right?
Absolutely. No, that's very true.
Right.
That's very, very true. That is true. And I also think that, when you have conversations with people, the end goal should always be to try and understand where they're coming from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all again for another great show. And
Thank you
we look
guys for
forward to
tuning
seeing
in. We
you all
appreciate
next time.
you.
All right. Have a good week.
Bye.